Spreadsheets often appear dull and uninteresting. The challenge is that Excel has a vast array of settings, making it difficult to find the right options to enhance their visual appeal. So in this video, I'll share 7 formatting tricks that will transform your spreadsheets, making them visually engaging and ensuring that your reports, budgets or presentations capture attention and encourage readers to engage. You can download the example file and try them yourself from the link in the video description. You only need to look at the icons on your phone to see that rounded corners are in. But by default, Excel chart corners are square, making them look dated. However, buried in the chart formatting settings is an option to change them to rounded. To open the chart formatting, select the outer edge of the chart and then Control 1 to open the formatting pane. Let me bring it over closer. Under the border drop-down, at the very bottom, there's rounded corners. And just like that, your chart looks far more modern. Now this works with pivot charts like I have here and regular charts. With icons found on the Insert tab of the ribbon and then Icons, 365 users can bring reports to life and visually indicate what your data is about, not only making it more interesting, but also quicker to consume. Simply select an icon that you want to insert, or you can search by category or for a specific item. For example, let's look for a pie chart. There's one there. Let's also grab an image for a pizza and we'll get that one. You can see I've got 3 to insert. Click Insert. Now icons are scalable vector graphics that float above the grid, making their size and placement flexible. Let's just separate them here. So you can grab the pull handles on the corners and make them larger without them distorting. We also have the Graphics Format tab available on the ribbon, and there are various options here. If we look at the graphics fill, for example, I can make this orange. However, the whole graphic gets colored orange. If you want to color the individual components of the graphic, you need to first convert it to a shape. We can do that by clicking the Convert to Shape button here. And now it doesn't look any different, but notice we have a Shape Format tab on the ribbon instead of the Graphics Format tab. And if I click inside the shape, I can select the individual components. For example, here I can make this bit purple, and let's quickly grab each section and we'll also make them purple, pressing F4 to reapply it. And the bubbles here, well, let's make them a little bit different. We'll give them an outline in purple and make the fill white. And let's repeat that for the other bubbles, just to make the shape a little bit more interesting and different. Another thing we can do to make shapes a bit more interesting and different, let's also convert this one to a shape. And then I'll grab each segment and we'll change the fill color. I'll make it a light blue. And then let's give it a darker blue outline. And let's go in and change the outline to this sketched effect. Grab this one here that's a scribble. And now it looks a bit more fun. Let's also repeat it for this one. We'll give this a dark orange outline. And we'll give it the same squiggly line. And lastly, we'll do this one in green with a dark green outline, also in the sketched effect. And if we make it a bit bigger, you can see the sketching goes in and outside of the actual shape, making it just a little bit more fun and interesting to use in your reports. Lastly, let's do something with the pizza that's a little bit different. We'll go in and convert it to a shape. And then I'll change the shape fill to white and we'll give it an outline in blue. And then let's go in and change the sketch effect to the scribble. And you can see without the fill color, it looks different again. So have some fun with icons to give them a unique look. We can make boring column charts a bit more interesting with shapes. The trick to avoid the shape getting distorted is to split the columns into 2 parts and plot them as a stacked column chart. If I select the top section of this column chart, you can see it's the shape and then the bottom section is just a regular column. So let's go back to the demo file and I'll show you how to set them up step by step. Here I have my sales data. Now the first thing I need to do is split it out into the base value and the shape value. The shape is just going to be the minimum of my sales values. And press Control and Enter. And then the base is going to be my total sales minus my shape value. I'll just copy that down. And now I'll select the categories, my base and my shape values, and then insert, and here we want a stacked 2D column. Let's bring the chart up closer to the data. So the top section is going to store my shape. What shape am I going to use? Well, grab one from the Insert tab and then Shapes. There are loads to choose from, but you want to make sure you use a shape that doesn't make it misleading in terms of the height of the column or make it more difficult for your reader to interpret. So I'm going to go down here into the flowchart section and grab this one here called the document. I'll draw it in. Now it's upside down at the moment, so let's grab the rotation. Holding down Shift will flip it over. And then I'm going to format it with no outline so that it's the same as the bottom part of the column. Control C to copy the shape. Select the top series in my chart. Control V to paste. And just like that, I now have more interesting columns. Let's do a little bit more formatting of the chart. We'll get rid of the vertical axis labels and the chart title, and I'll get rid of grid lines and the legend. And then selecting just the top section, I'm going to add data labels, but you'll notice that they picked up the shape value. To remedy that, let's go into More Options. And here, I want to choose Value from Cells. And this is where I pick up my total sales value. Click OK. Now we don't also need the value and the leader line, so I'll get rid of those. Close down the task pane. And then let's go in and format them in white. Make them bold and a bit bigger so they're easier to read. And just like that, I have a much more interesting chart. And don't forget, Control 1, rounded corners. There we go. So have some fun with the shapes. There's lots to choose from, as you saw. I also sometimes use this one here with the top corners that are rounded. If you draw that in, you can change the radius to make it completely rounded. You'll also find some examples that work well in the file that you can download from the link in the video description, including this one here with the scribble effect on the columns. Who needs Photoshop to remove image backgrounds when Excel can do it? Simply insert your picture into Excel, then on the Picture Format tab, Remove Background. It does a pretty good job at identifying the background, which it's colored pink, and we can use the Mark Areas to Keep and Mark Areas to Remove tools to refine it. You can see it's incorrectly identified her white blouse as an area to remove. So I'll select Mark Areas to Keep, and with the mouse pointer now in the pen icon, I can left click and drag to roughly draw around the white section. You can see it's not perfect. Now it's cleared up the section at the bottom, but we still have this pink section here. So let's try that again. I'll try and be a little more accurate. See if we can get it right. Okay, that's that done. Now I'm holding down the mouse wheel. I'm going to scroll up with my mouse and then let's scroll across. I want to remove this section in her hair. So we're going to Mark Areas to Remove. Now because it's small, I can't really draw around it. So I'm just going to left click inside that section and also for this section here. Okay, not bad, not quite perfect. Let's see if we can fix that section of her hair. Okay, that's much better. Let's scroll out. And now I can simply press Keep Changes and it's done. Let's crop the image because we don't need all of this excess space. That'll just make it a little bit easier to work with. Right, and with that done, I now have an image with no background, which is pretty good considering this is Excel. Now this tool is also in other Office apps like PowerPoint and Word. And if you want to use this image in other apps, you can right click and save it as a picture, and then it will be available to import into other apps. Pretty cool. Shapes are great for storing large amounts of text because they float above the grid and they're not constrained by a cell, so you can position them anywhere on the worksheet. But did you know you can format the data in columns inside a shape? Let's apply it to this one. Control 1 to open the formatting, and then under Size and Position, under Properties, down at the bottom, we've got Columns. And here you can set how many columns you want. I'm going to have 2 columns and I'll have a 0.4 centimeter spacing between them. Click OK, and then I can resize my shape as required. And notice down at the bottom here, we also have margins. So if I want it closer to the left, I can reduce the margin. Likewise for the right, top and bottom. And this is particularly handy when you're working with shapes with rounded corners because Excel will nudge them right in, and sometimes you just want to get that text as close to the edge as possible. Now, if you find yourself changing the formatting repeatedly, like I've done here, I've gone in and set my columns and my margins, and I might also select it and change the color. So let's make the shape feel a bit paler. And then I might change my text to dark blue so that it's easier to read, etc. But if I need another shape, and I'll go to Insert, Shapes, and this time I'll insert a rectangle, you can see it's now formatted in the dark blue with the dark blue border default. And I'd have to go through all those steps again. So instead of doing that, I can right click on the shape that I've formatted and then set it as the default shape. And now if I insert a new shape, and it doesn't matter which shape it is, for example, we'll do the rectangle with the square corners, you can see it's the same color. And if I put some text in here, you can see it's got the blue text. If we look at the columns, you can see it's picked up the number of columns and the spacing. So all of my settings that I spent time setting up are automatically applied without me having to faff about with these changes over and over again. You may have noticed the icons in my sheet tabs and in the navigation pane here on the left, which you can turn on via the View tab and then Navigation. Now, these not only make your workbooks more fun to work with, but they can also make it quicker to navigate because images are much quicker to interpret than reading text. Now, these icons are emojis, and you can insert them using the Windows key and then the semicolon. This brings up the task pane, and you can see my recently used emojis. You can search for them and then insert it when you find the one you want. Click the X to close it down and press Enter. So that's an emoji in a cell. I've inserted them in my sheet tabs, and if you were to open this file in Excel Online, you would see the sheet tab emojis in color like you do in the navigation pane here on the left. If you like these visual hacks, you're going to love this video on 5 Excel tools most users never think to use that will transform your workflow. By the end, you'll wonder how you ever managed without them. I'll see you there.